Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this channel. My name is Ogbanje Joseph. Today we're going to be talking about the meaning of international law. The meaning of international law. But before we go into the meaning of international law, it is important to know the meaning of law itself. What is law? Law can be defined as a system of rules that are created and enforced through social or governmental institutions to regulate behavior. Okay? So law, you know, is also a system that helps to regulate and ensure that a community show respect and equality among themselves. Okay, so law also can be, law is a complex whole of many phenomena. Okay, so these phenomena include the norms regulating behavior and the machinery of, okay, and of course the machinery for their enforcement and administration. So comprehensively, law can be defined as a body of rules of social conduct which are recognized as obligatory by the people whose conduct it guides, and which visit specific sanctions administered by legitimate authority on violators. Okay, so that is actually the meaning of law. Okay, so right now let us go to the definition of international law. Now, international law can be defined according to Beckman and Bott 2012 as as a rules and principles of general application dealing with the conduct of states and international organizations in their international relations with one another and with private individuals. Okay, private individuals, minority groups, and transnational companies. Okay, so that is according to Beckman and Bott 2012. Now, according to Fenwick 1970, international law is a body of general principles, okay, and specific rules which are binding upon the international community in their mutual relations. So it is the so it is the body of customary and conventional rules which are considered legally binding by civilized states in their intercourse with each other. So it is deeply linked, okay, with the conduct and practice of states, okay, of states across national boundaries. What am I talking about? It is actually, the system of law that is binding, legally binding by, by civilized states in their intercourse with each other. So civilized states, so any state that is not civilized, okay, cannot actually say it is being binded by law or international law. Okay, so those are the things. So when we talk about, international law, we are just talking about the fact that we're talking about body of rules and regulations that are binding on states. Now, any law that binds on states, international organizations, private individuals, international companies, what what that law is actually international law. Okay. Now, don't forget that states actually, in their dealings with one another, from time to time, actually, can misbehave. In fact, in the international system, states actually are anarchic. Okay, sorry, the international system is anarchic, and so because of that, states are naturally lawless. They take laws into their hands. What is important, or what guides the operations of states in the international system, is the national interest. And so states can actually put laws behind their back and, and misbehave, so to say, within the international system. So it is the law that is actually, put in place to regulate the behaviors of these states that is now called the international law. If these laws are not on ground, of course, states will actually misbehave, the whole world will be chaotic, and then the international system will actually be tumultuous. So, but what makes states actually to behave very well within the international system and to obey rules and regulations, obey protocols, obey protocols, obey treaties and charter is actually international law. You understand? So now let us look at the sources. What are the sources of international law? What are the sources of international law? Number one source of international law is international treaties and conventions. Okay, international treaties and conventions. International treaties and conventions. Don't forget that we actually have, treaties and conventions. Okay, so that is actually number one, international treaties and conventions. Number two is international customary laws. International customary laws. What are international customary laws? These are rules, okay, that evolve through long historical process and eventually culminating in their acceptance by the international community as a basis for legal conduct and management of relationships. Okay, example of this is actually diplomatic relations between states, okay, bilateral treaties, okay, press releases and official statements by governments. Okay, the practice of international organizations and state laws are all under these international customary laws. What has been happening over time will actually be accepted as, as customary in the international system, and over time it becomes, the basics. It becomes a basis for operation or for interaction. Then number three, international judicial decisions. Now, the decision of the judgment of the International Court of Justice is actually, the basis of international law too. That is actually number three. Number four, juristic works. Okay, that is the works of scholars, who are experts in international law. Okay, the first person who is actually regarded as the father of international law is called, okay, the person that is regarded as the father of international law is Hugo Grotius. Works of scholars like that can actually suffice as one of the sources of what? Of international law. Number five is decisions and determinations of international organizations, and or international conferences. Okay, so decisions and or determinations of international organizations or international institutions and conferences. Now, this is actually a source of international law. Once these decisions are reached, okay, it becomes the basis upon which countries actually behave. It is a source of international law. That is number that is number five. Then number six, general principles of law recognized by nations. General principles of law recognized by nations. What does that mean? It means that there are certain general principles of law that are recognized by nations, which means, rape is considered, for example, rape is considered outlawed in several parts of the world. Okay, so that is a general principle. Law is actually law. Okay, whatever is outlawed, particularly, rape, murder, and all of that. These are general principles that anywhere you go to in this world, it is the principle is that don't commit rape, don't commit murder. If you do that, it is actually against the law anywhere. So on the basis of that, it is actually extrapolated to international law. Okay, so these are the sources of international law. Let me name them once more. We have number one, international treaties and conventions. Number two, international customary laws. Number three, okay, so that is international customary laws. Number three, international judicial decisions. Number four, okay, number four, juristic works. Number five, decisions or determinations of international conferences, international conferences, organizations, and institutions. Then number six, general principles of law recognized by nations. So we are going to actually stop here today. Thank you.